What is up, family? Welcome to Mini Bytes session 68. Today's title is Take the Hill. My name is Erin McCluskey. I'm an executive coach. I work with leaders who are looking to redefine their personal and professional definitions of success. I assist leaders in connecting wellness and performance, and I teach leaders how to articulate the need to prioritize self-care in the workplace. So, thanks for being here today. Shameless plug before we continue. My online class is scheduled to begin September 16th. There are still some spots open and the discounted rate is still available. So go to www.erinjewelcoaching.com. That is ErinJewellCoaching.com to register. You can also request a syllabus on the website and learn more about the upcoming certification in mindset and performance. So, take the hill. The first time I heard this statement was from my father, and it's honestly one of the only people that I've ever heard say it, although I know it to be more of a military term, and my father is a retired colonel in the U.S. Army, and so it's no surprise that the man uses this. He uses this all the time, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Usually when my father is telling me to take the hill, he's encouraging me to go after something that I want, and it has absolutely worked during my life in so many places and so many ways. And there's just something really empowering about it. And I almost envision every time he says it, and it's like, it's not only that he says it, but it's like the way he says it, like take the hill, like very like he has taken the hill, right? And one of the earlier sort of war movies I watched with my dad was Hamburger Hill. And if you haven't seen that movie, it's certainly very intense and really powerful. Scene in that movie involves soldiers literally taking Hamburger Hill and sort of the defeat and the celebration that exists within that. So I decided I wanted to talk about taking the hill, what that meant, what that means for me, how I find that to be a very empowering statement, but sort of unpack it a little bit because I was off on a run this afternoon, and when I finished my run, I decided to take a little bit of a walk and do a little bit of a meditation after my run. I need to, it's important for me to balance out my runs with meditation or Qigong or some type of more yin type of a practice. And those of you who have worked with me know what I'm talking about, or perhaps you've studied it elsewhere. But basically, what that means is I need to balance. I need to balance the exertion with the stillness, because if I don't do that, eventually I will fall out of balance and I'll be too much in activation mode or initiation mode. And so anyway, after my run, I decided to spend some time in mindful meditation. And today I chose to walk during that mindful meditation. And I chose to walk up a hill. And this hill was a particularly technical hill. It was quite steep. There were lots of rocks. There were lots of roots from the trees that were sort of lining the pathway. And although it was it was a path, it was a trail and an incline and a hill that people and bikes and things like that, a path was made for people to ascend this hill, it was still quite challenging. And immediately, I just finished a run, one of my faster runs in a while. And so I wasn't really interested in exerting myself a lot more at that point. I was more interested in benefiting from the mindfulness of that walk. And so as I began to ascend the hill, as I began to climb the hill, I noticed that if I took longer strides, if I took longer steps, that it felt I would get out of breath more quickly. So I noticed when I was taking longer steps and I was looking up the hill, further ahead up the hill, I noticed that would kind of gas me out more quickly. And so I quickly shifted and I started taking smaller steps that were intentional and deliberate. And they were smaller steps, and I found myself looking closer to the ground, because when I was looking more straight up the hill to see what was further ahead, I was actually starting to trip over some rocks and roots. And because I wasn't watching more where I was stepping, it was actually throwing me off balance, and it was putting me at risk for falling. And so I was able to take shorter steps that were intentional, and my focus was more right in front of me. It wasn't so much about up what was happening further on up the hill. And by doing it this way, before I knew it, I found myself at the very top of the hill. And I wasn't out of breath. I felt actually very strong, in particular in my core. I also was able to engage my core a little bit more because I was taking these smaller steps as I was ascending the hill. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's what taking the hill is about today for me. It's about focusing on the obvious next steps. It's about taking manageable steps, not steps that are long and big, trying to cover more ground, but actually not worrying about covering more ground and focusing on taking steps that feel manageable, that feel comfortable, keeping an eye out for what is right in front of me instead of focusing on much further out, so that I can see the rocks and I can see the roots and I'm not thrown off balance. And so take away whatever you want to take away from this message, but whatever you do, make sure you take the hill. Love you all. Until the next time.